The geopolitical control lines of our neighbors are shifting fast. Southeast Asia are today theaters of competition between the United States of America and China. With India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, even Sri Lanka oscillating between these two both power centers. For the Northeast, this flux is not only about the security but about also trade, connectivity, energy, and people-to-people ties. As neighbors grapple with turmoil and choices which we had seen over the month and the last week also, where does the Northeast stand and how can it turn challenges into opportunities is our part of discussion. This will be a 45-minute session. We will love to wrap up around 35 minutes so that we can have some Q&A from the young minds and many other people which I can see, and because this is a very august panel. Let's start with the general. The big picture about the changing dynamics. You had seen Bangladesh, you had seen Sri Lanka, and you had seen Nepal. How are the recent shift in Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Nepal shaping both the security and economic future of the India's Northeast, sir?
Good morning and namaskar to everyone. Firstly, thanks to Pratidin Times for giving me this opportunity here. I think the Northeast borders is strategically extremely important for our country for various reasons, and more so in the changing dynamics that has been happening all over the globe in recent years. The regime changes in Bangladesh, the continued turmoil in Myanmar, as well as the recent regime change in Nepal has an impact in our country, but more so in the Northeast. Because if you look at the Northeast borders, firstly, they are porous borders. There has been traditional migration, which has at times caused social stress within some parts of the Northeast. We all are familiar with that. The recent regime changes, coupled with the world geopolitical dynamics and the rising fundamentalism, which compounds the existing ethnic fissures within the Northeast and its neighborhood, makes the situation extremely complex. And this is further compounded by the unresolved borders and certain long festering insurgencies which has been going on in the Northeast as also in the neighborhood. So security is of prime importance because we all know that Northeast is the least integrated and one of the least developed areas in our country and in the neighborhood. And for developmental activities to take place, for Northeast to catch up with the rest of the country, peace and security along the borders as well as internally is sine qua non. So it's a mandatory requirement. Only then the developmental activities can take place. So we need to look at our borders. The disputed borders need to be resolved. The long-running ethnic insurgencies need to be resolved, and we need to find some sort of, resolution for those insurgency movements. We need to look at our neighborhood in a more pragmatic and in a more nuanced manner, because any development in these states, these countries, particularly in Bangladesh, Myanmar, as well as Nepal and Bhutan and in China, definitely impacts the Northeast. We all keep talking about the vulnerable Siliguri corridor, which is the lifeline to the Northeast. The demographic changes that are taking place and increasing footprints of some of the inimical countries may at any point of time threaten to cut off Siliguri corridor. Whether physically or in a hybrid mode, that is something to be seen.
No, I have a specific
So-
question on that, sir.
Yeah.
I'll keep it for the thing because that's
Okay.
very important thing because I remember you had said they used to spend sleepless night in Fort William for that 22 kilometer of corridor. I have a specific question. I'll follow it a little later.
Okay. I think for peace and development, we need to resolve the borders. We need to find some solution to the ethnic insurgency problems that are going on. And we need to also concentrate on the socio-economic development of this region. We need to focus on the infrastructure development, particularly in the border areas, so that the threats can be mitigated. We need to empower the border guarding forces so that the necessary action can be taken. And we need to make the border infrastructure smarter by incorporating AI and the other technological developments that are taking place all across the globe. I think I'll leave it for now, and we
I'll
can
come back to you,
start.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, General. First of all, I congratulate you for beating the Sunday traffic and reaching Dr. Singh, Mr. Singh, and on time because you almost missed it because of the traffic. Same question to you, sir. How this regime change and the tectonical change of geopolitics over the last few months around the South and Southeast Asia will have impact in the northeast India, especially Nepal, Bangladesh, even Myanmar. Things are now all changing. I believe China has now stopped giving support to northern Burma groups. So that is something interesting. And Myanmar is going for an election. So altogether, I would love to know your comment on the northeast India's effect to these things.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. And my sincere apologies. I just came from the University of Delhi. So I live near the university. So I thought that I will take only just half an hour, but it took almost 1 hour. So that was the problem. So it's a very relevant question because the Northeast, the states of the Northeast being surrounded by various countries. So there are international borders. So these borders serve as at the same time, the opportunities and the challenges for India in general and the Northeast in particular. So this is the one thing. And another thing, what we have been seeing in Sri Lanka and in then till day before yesterday in Nepal and in Bangladesh, the question here is what are the aspirations and the expectations of the youth populations. Because now what we see is that in many countries, especially in the countries around our neighborhood, what we have seen is that there is a lots of discontentment among the youth. There are problems related to employment, unemployment, particularly that affects lots of young people, lots of educated people. So as a result of that, what we have seen in, say, in Nepal and then as well as in Bangladesh also, many of these movements were all led by the young people, educated people. So likewise, in our northeastern states also, what we see is that there is a very similar, the situation in terms of the availability of employment opportunities, and also now the educated people, the young people. So there is this frustrations among the young people, and this frustration is also becoming a very important for many of the so-called insurgents, the movement in the region. So therefore, I am really concerned that what is happening in other part of, say in Bangladesh or in Nepal will have, some, problem especially because there are discontentment among the youth in the Northeast. So this is number one point. The number 2 point is that, say, our immediate neighborhoods like, Bangladesh, the problem that we have seen in the last, some months ago. So many of these problems will have, repercussion in the Northeast. Say, when we talk about the trafficking of the people, the smuggling of the people, and also the issue of unauthorized movement of peoples. And also nowadays in, say for instance, in Myanmar, many of you must be aware about lots of problems happening in that country. So as a result of that, because of lots of bloodshed and the violence, so many people are being displaced from that country, and many are coming to the northeastern states in Manipur or say in Mizoram and maybe in other states. So this is also again creating internal conflict. Say in the Northeast also, since there are different ethnic communities, so our perceptions towards various issues always divides the peoples. So the issue of people coming into from Myanmar also or from Bangladesh divides the people of the Northeast in one sense. At the same time, there are also, some people are also united. So this unites and divides, creates lots of conflicting situations. So this will have lots of problems for the, the Northeast region. So
thank you, thank you, Mr. Singh. Coming to Dr. Mirza Zulfikar Rahman, you being the man you yourself call the borderland. My question is, with China expanding its role across Southeast Asia, how should India balance security with economic cooperation of the region?
Thank you, Minalda, for the question, and thank you, Pratidin Time, for inviting me to this August gathering. We are in a very difficult neighborhood. In Northeast India is one of the most international neighborhood, and also a very important pivot in what we see as the extension to the Indo-Pacific. So, in that sense, how India and China look at the borders in this larger region would matter a lot in how India's own policies shape up, and also how China's interest in, for example, in Myanmar and Bangladesh shape up. We have seen a lot of transformation in the past few years within Northeast India in terms of connectivity, in terms of development, but a lot of this connectivity and development would not mean anything if it cannot open up to the proximate neighborhood. We see a lot of problems that we also, in terms of Myanmar, the conflict situation in Myanmar, and the conflict situation in Bangladesh, which is actually preventing us from meaningfully opening up the borders, while China has been able to actually do that in some ways in Myanmar and Bangladesh. So I feel that, in sense that Northeast India is very well poised, because the strength of Northeast India is also its communities. And we should not see the communities as, kind of isolated, but we are connectors to the larger international neighborhood. The communities of Northeast India has a rich history and a lot of goodwill in the past in terms of transboundary communities. So in that sense, especially with Bhutan, especially with Myanmar, and we see the case in Manipur, for example, Mizoram, so, and Nagaland as well. So these communities actually can be seen as the cultural connectors. And then actually that is what China is also doing. The para-diplomacy that is happening by China in Myanmar is actually based on these cultural connectors that they are using, leveraging. So we should also leverage those, and then I think that could actually make those openings meaningful for us.
Just a follow-up question to you, that is about opening up. Should India keep distancing itself from Bangladesh now, or should open up for more business?
I feel that Bangladesh is one country that actually can take us into a kind of, from being landlocked, what we always think traditionally of being landlocked, to being land-linked. And that's the kind of, thing that we open up to have a separate access from the Siliguri corridor. And the Kaladan multimodal project that also passes through Mizoram and goes into Myanmar is also very, very strategic. But because of the conflict that is there in Arakan, we have not made progress. But we also have to see the layers of, borders, how borders also operate in various layers. One is the political layer, but the other layer is the ecological layer. A lot of the ecological interdependencies that we actually share with our neighborhood will also mean a lot in terms of future migration patterns, future environmental disasters. And not only political factors can actually determine this kind of influxes and outflows, but also environmental. So I just wanted to propose this understanding that before nation-state borders came in, this larger neighborhood was a bioregion and an eco-region. And we also need to actually put in effective policies to actually manage the ecological layer as well. I'll just put that as a submission.
Coming to General, I vividly remember you had once mentioned, while I was also present in that occasion, when you were asked that what made you sleepless when you were sleeping in Fort William as the commander of the entire Eastern region. You said about Doklam. I said about this corridor. You had one side in the north, Doklam, and another side is the northern in Bangladesh. The distance is about roughly about 100 kilometers, and 22 kilometers is actual boundary. Strategic, communication, defense, everything is about 22 kilometers. How serious the problem is? Because we don't visualize for a normal citizen, unlike you, that Doklam is not far away. That means China and Bangladesh is actually a distance of only about roughly about 100 kilometers separating between two countries.
You see, when you look at Northeast geographically, the Northeast shares 90% of its borders with 5 different countries, and only 10%, which is through the Siliguri corridor, the Northeast is linked to the balanced part of the country. So that 22 kilometers, which is the narrowest, and otherwise it opens up to about 100 kilometers, that's the basic lifeline of Northeast. Just to put some figures, on a daily basis, there are about 11 to 12 lakhs of vehicles which goes into Northeast through the Siliguri corridor and raising a revenue of about 142 crores per day. So that's the sort of, movement which take place through Siliguri corridor. And the alternate connectivity which we are trying to establish, whether through Myanmar by the Kalatan multimodal transport project, or through Chittagong port and then to Akhora and connecting towards Tripura, through Bangladesh or through Myanmar, are largely dependent on the situation in Myanmar and Bangladesh, which in the present circumstances is not at all conducive. So these alternate routes not having opened up, Siliguri corridor is extremely important to us because, and if we see the increasing footprints of China all around the narrow Siliguri corridor, in 2017 there was a 73 days standoff between Indian and Chinese forces at Doklam. Primarily, the Chinese forces were trying to come sudden towards closer to the Siliguri corridor. We also see a lot of developmental activities in garb of infrastructure development in eastern Nepal, particularly in Koshi-Mesi corridor. They are creating Japak economic corridor where a lot of Chinese presence is there, which is located north of the Siliguri corridor. Even in northern Bangladesh, which is the southern part of the Siliguri corridor, we find in Rangpur division, there are increased, Chinese infrastructure projects that are being undertaken. After the regime changes, we also heard that Second World War vintage airport, that's Lal Monir Hat, which is hardly any distance from the Siliguri corridor, being handed over to Chinese for development by the present Bangladeshi regime. So, in a situation like this, where we have increased Chinese footprint all around the Siliguri corridor, and the demographic changes within Siliguri corridor, and rising radicalization in Bangladesh, which can overflow into this Siliguri corridor, even if it's not a physical intervention in terms of military kinetic operation, a hybrid form of movement can cut off, has the potential of cutting off the Siliguri corridor. So that's the biggest threat, I think, which we need to be cognizant of, and we need to take certain measures to circumvent and how to address this particular issue.
Is it true, sir, that enemy country like Pakistan are sending their top intelligence officer to the Rangpur division, or the Bangladesh army actually hosted them? Is it true?
Yes, of course. We also saw this in the media report. Initially, there are certain high-ranking officers who had come, which included some of their ISI officials. They had come and visited Rangpur division, as also they had come to somewhere near the Cox's Bazar. That's a cantonment which is known as Ramukant, which is in the which looks after the area in the Bangladesh-Myanmar border. So we saw their presence. Obviously, increased Pakistani presence or influence in Bangladesh cannot be in India's interest. It has to be in contrary to that. So that remains a threat. You know, what sort of, we also see, if we see the growing anti-India feeling, sentiment within Bangladesh after the regime change which took place on 5th of August last year, and which has been exploited by the radicalized forces like Jamaat-e-Islami, that's a political force in Bangladesh, as also Ansarul Bangla team, Bangladesh, JMB Bangladesh, all these people, the extremist forces which are operating in Bangladesh, they are also finding favor and patronage of the present Bangladesh regime. So this doesn't augur well for us at all. And on to top of it, we have ISI officials and high-ranking Pakistani armed forces officials coming and hobnobbing with the Bangladeshi forces. So obviously, that would not be in interest of our country.
Let me contextualize about the 22 kilometer. It's just visualize, if you are from Guwahati, from Chanmari to the airport Borjar, that is about 20 odd kilometer. That's the difference. That's the exact distance of the area, the corridor. At one side you have two enemy nations actually in the opposite side. I'm tempted to ask another question about this and the situation. Do you see some sort of an improvement of the ties with China, or can China be trusted even if we have a very bonhomie or good things when Prime Minister Modi had recently visited Shanghai? So in that case, you talk about the Fishtail region, that side, one long side, or in Blue Climb side. Do you see some sort of a change on tactics, or can you trust them?
See, after the standoff in Galwan in 2020, the India-China relationship had gone down completely. We all are cognizant of that. But in October 24, the last of the areas, those two of the disputed areas, the things were resolved. And thereafter, there has been a thaw in the India-China relationship. And with recent visit of Prime Minister Modi to Tianjin to attend the SCO summit, as also the recent special representative meeting which took place between our NSA Doval and their Foreign External Affairs Minister. So there has been an upswing in the relationship as far as India and China is concerned. But what China has done consistently is they have created infrastructure and they have created areas of influence all around us. So the basic requirement which is needed in case of any possible conflict are being created. Intent may change anytime. You know, so the infrastructure is there, that has been created. Though there is an upswing or a thaw in the relationship, improvement in the relationship, we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that threat would continue to remain, and we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to have our own powders dry as well.
If they have the infrastructure that side ready, what about our side, sir?
Yeah, India also has been taking numerous measures to build the infrastructure, particularly in the remote areas of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. There has been a lot of focus on development of infrastructure, and which includes improving connectivity in terms of roads and even railways. Recently, all the capitals, there is a project of connectivity, providing connectivity to all the capitals of the northeastern states. In addition to the road connectivity, there is increased focus on things like data connectivity, mobile connectivity, as also the vibrant border villages program, which has been initiated by our country, basically to ensure that there is no migration of our own population from the border villages towards the plain looking for livelihood, so that the border villages continue to remain occupied. So there has been a lot of focus. We all know that Sela Pass has been opened up. So infrastructure-wise, I think we are okay. And as far as defense wherewithal is concerned, it's not 1962 anymore. Things have changed. And Operation Sindoor has proved the capabilities of the Indian Armed Forces. And I think the nation has full confidence in the capability of Indian Armed Forces to withstand any sort of threat that is posed against our national security.
Thank you, sir. My next question, Next question is, Mr. Singh. Recently, I had seen in the media reports, Reuters report, where it says that China has officially assigned work for the improvement of the whole Lidu road, that old steel wheel road, Lidu, Baoshan, basically a connectivity between Lidu to Baoshan via Mishina. Going by the Chinese standard of work and their activities, you can very easily say that in 2 years down the line, road from Baoshan, Mishina to Lidu will be through. And we had seen their work. So the question is, are we ready for that?
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I have been to Myanmar many times, and I have been to many of the projects where China has been implementing in various parts of Myanmar, especially when it comes to the border trade and also the construction of highway, east-west corridor, and so on and so forth, and also interacted with the Indian officials as well as the Myanmar officials. And as Sir has also mentioned about, now you see what is happening in Myanmar when we talk about the project which are being sponsored by China. Many of these projects in China are the completion rate. In terms of many of the projects could complete in very carried out in a good pace. So as a result of that, now if you compare with the various projects implemented by India inside Myanmar also, for instance, especially various connectivity schemes and the projects under the Act East policy, we can see a very contrast between the Chinese project and then the Indian project. So that is very, very visible in our, say. And so as a result of that, say, for instance, in Myanmar, several Myanmarese scholars, they don't see any hope in what is today known as the, Thailand, Myanmar, India trilateral highway. Because many of this, the various portion of this highway, there are several things that has to be most of the work has been delayed for various reasons. So as a result of that, when it comes to various developmental project, strategic project inside Myanmar, if you compare with China, with that of India, so I think, as many scholars have also written, that the China has gone far ahead. And now, say for instance, when we talk about the border trade, say border trade between Myanmar and India, or say the trade between Myanmar and Thailand, and then the Myanmar and China, the way this trade has progressed, It's like a very modern day, the trade that they have already established in those borders. But it is not so in our case, say, let's say in Manipur, that More, the trade hardly exists there, except for some informal trade here and there. Same is in the case of Mizoram. So therefore, we need to learn a lot from and another thing that which I observe is that because you see, the perception of the Myanmarese intellectuals and officials towards China and India is also very different. So this is also which we observe whenever we go to Myanmar for field work, when we visit, So this could be for many other reasons also. This is number one, and as Har has also highlighted, say in the case in our side of the border, various developmental activities, border area development programs, which has been going on for a number of decades. So, and some of these projects are taken up by BRO, that Border Roads Organizations. And if you look at the Niti Aayog reports, because no one can give their judgment on BRO, but it was the Niti Aayog which has highlighted various loopholes in the functioning of the BRO. So as a result of that, now we have a specialized highway development agency, which is known as the National Highway Infrastructure Development Unit. So these things, but having said that, in Myanmar case, the various development projects, most of in the Indian project, especially when I'm talking about the connectivity projects, the Chinese have gone very far ahead in many of these activities.
So coming to Dr. Zulfikar Mirza Zulfikar Rahman, both Nepal and Bangladesh are heading towards Western-friendly government, it looks like, although Nepal is too fresh at this moment, at the cost of China. Do you see this as an opportunity or a barrier for India and the Northeast? I'm talking about Bangladesh and Nepal. Looks like they are going for a Western-friendly government.
I think that our neighborhood first policy that is in place, that needs to be seen in that context of how we are dealing with Bangladesh and Nepal. A lot of the kind of incidents that have happened in the recent past in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and also in Nepal, it is somewhat to be said that we have to reimagine our relations with our neighborhood. We can say that we are a kind of a leader of the global south, but before we can actually say that we are a leader of the global south, we also have to show that we are able to actually build upon the traditional goodwill that we have with our neighboring countries. The goodwill was there with Myanmar, with Bangladesh, with Bhutan, it still is with Bhutan, and with Nepal. But that kind of goodwill, how do we really make that the building block of our foreign policy? And that is very, very important in terms of how the visioning happens and how it goes forward. I feel that the need of the hour for India is to actually be able to reimagine the borders and be able to put effective solutions, to be able to lift the border at some point and put the solution and put the border back, because we cannot wish that the borders will go away tomorrow. The borders are there to stay, and we cannot choose our neighbors. But the point is this, that we can really engage with them through meaningful dialogue. And coming to the question earlier on China, I feel that if there is more cooperation between transboundary rivers, between China and India, it could actually have a spillover effect on the boundary dispute as well. And if there is a
you're talking about rivers,
even transboundary rivers, yes. The Yalong Sangpo, Brahmaputra, and also rivers between Nepal and India, between Bangladesh and India, all of these rivers, the dialogue on rivers, the negotiations on rivers can have a spillover effect on bilateral relations, and that also can be an entry point by which we can actually see the ecological interdependencies, build that as a building block for again building that goodwill back. You know, Nepal is dependent on India on many layers, not only politically but also ecologically. So we also have to see those alternative lenses by which these entry points can be explored and build on those building blocks, and then see that I hope that I'm sure that the goodwill will come back. You know,
I'm running out of time,
Yeah.
actually. I have one more questions to you before I open up the. I have could see so many questions. I hope I can take it as much as possible. My question to you: China has decided to withdraw. To you, sir. China has decided to withdraw the support to all the northern Myanmar rebels, including I could see Hua State, which is basically giving the support to Alpha and others. Also, I could see in the news report when the Prime Minister was visiting that China was lifting curbs on Indian rare earth imports. Also could see some kind of news about that India's people, India's experts are trying to reach out to northern Myanmar, the possibility of extracting or quality of testing the rare earth. And you know rare earth is so much of importance in EV and all mobiles. Is there something cooking, sir? So many big developments, roads, rare earth, lifting, import, carbon, the northern Myanmar, and all the insurgent force. Something is cooking, sir?
See, the northern Myanmar itself is populated by or controlled by the ethnic armed groups. So China has an interest in keeping the ethnic armed groups in good humor, because the China-Myanmar economic corridor runs through that areas which are controlled by these ethnic armed groups. So whether it is Hua State or Kachin State, or all these areas have got a certain internal dynamics or complexities, wherein we see China not only engaging with these armed groups which are fighting the Myanmari army, they are also in cohort with the Myanmari army as well. So the businesses are going on, and what exactly is going to pan out, it's very difficult at this point of time to predict. But definitely northern Myanmar, not only northern Myanmar, in fact that entire connectivity up to the port is of interest to China, and definitely they are trying to push in for more infrastructure development so that they can exploit this region, as also get in those rare earth material which is actually rare in this world, and they are very extremely important. And while at this, I would also like to make a mention about, just a short mention about the Lido Road, which you talked about.
Yes, sir.
That Lido-Pangsao Road has a strategic importance because the northernmost region of India-Myanmar border, most of us are not aware, is not demarcated, and which leads on to the tri-junction between India, Myanmar and China.
Near Walong.
Near Walong. So that's an area. Is this road going to impact and create one more flashpoint between India and China of that undemarcated tri-junction between India, Myanmar and China? That's another area we have to wait and watch.
Thank you, sir. We have exactly, my clock says 6 minutes for the session. I have about 18 questions. My technical team will help me to flash those questions. First one is from Abdul. That's with, I think, Abdul Mateen. Can you get it, sir? No. Can you help me? Yeah, Abdul, I can see. You said, sir, from insurgents to narcotics terror, nexus to drone institution, the threat from matrix of eastern border has dramatically evolved. In your assessment, what is the most underestimated emerging security threat in the region, and is for in our current security architecture agile enough to counter it? It's you to.
You see, northeastern region, earlier times we heard of the great game being played by British colonial India and Tsarist Russia, keeping Tibet as the frontier zone where the Tibet and Afghanistan, where the great game is being played. A lot of commentators are stating that is there a revival of that great game, and possibly northeast and the adjoining areas, is that the playfield of the great game that is being played by the external powers now, the important powers now. There are several pointers towards this. You know, that's the biggest threat, I think, which poses to the integrity of the Northeast as well, you know. Because the way the regime changes have taken place in Bangladesh or in Nepal or the internal turmoil in Myanmar, we also hear of, you know, a humanitarian corridor which is being pushed at from Bangladesh to Myanmar. With what interest? You know, is it really a humanitarian corridor, or is it to supply arms and weaponry to the ethnic armed groups or certain interested parties in Myanmar to fight the Myanmarese armies? So that's one area of, you know, concern for us.
Can you flash this question from Kallul on the screen? He said, I think sometimes there's a little technical glitch here. Okay. The next question is again from Kallul Talukdar. We keep seeing the border tensions among the any states due to the poor demarcation of boundaries. This can cause internal disturbances in the long run. Even if administration seems to not take it seriously at times, what could be done to save it? It's about the demarcation.
I think, yes, we also have to look at the international borders and also our domestic borders. A lot of the domestic disputes that are between Arunachal, Assam, Mizoram, Assam, Meghalaya, we have seen that those flashpoints have emerged in recent times, and this can really be a potential disruptor to the integration of Northeast India itself. So I think instead of playing one against the other, I think there has to be a kind of a cohesive kind of an approach towards resolving these border disputes, because these are very historical border disputes as well, and this requires long years of negotiations. I think there is a genuine intent in terms of the leadership of these particular states to actually come together to the table, talk about it, but it is in our interest, collective interest, to actually not have a kind of a bordered, kind of a fractured understanding within Northeast. These are also connected to resource, or also connected to how we seek the dependencies between, and the traditional markets that the hats, bazaars that we had between Nagaland and Assam, in Assam, Bangladesh, even Meghalaya and Assam, Arunachal and Assam. These dependencies are there, and we need to tap into them creatively and bring those to a closure very soon, and that will be very critical for us.
I have 23 more questions, but sorry, my clock says I can only take one more. That is from Safdar. If I can see them in the screen, I don't know. But anyway, Safdar is talking about Professor Singh, by prioritizing trade and tariff with China, especially after the Trump tariff war, is Prime Minister Modi at risk of repeating Nehru's 1962 mistake of trusting China, even amid aggression in Arunachal and other borders regions, like we saw in Doklam 2020 standoff?
Now, the relationship between India and China is also shaped by various factors. So at the same time, what we have seen is that we have seen lots of maturity in the relationship between these two great nations. So as a result of that, although these two countries are competitors in many fields, and we also try to see these two countries, sometimes we tend to see the two as the enemy, but at the same time, in terms of various other, say, in economic and trade relationship, there is the relationship is growing. So this economy will play very, very important role in the kind of relationship that India and China will develop over the period of time.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the first technical session. Remember, 3 countries, Nepal, Bangladesh and Myanmar, are going for election in next 6 months. And we are in the middle of that. 3 neighboring countries, Myanmar, they are going for election. Nepal, the new government has come and probably an election will be coming in about 4 or 5 months. Bangladesh has declared the election, so 3 new governments are coming. Don't know what, it's basically a tussle between China and USA. In between we are, so Northeast will remain some sort of in a hot seat for foreseeable future, and I will keep meeting and keep asking, keep debating, keep writing about these issues in time to come. Thank you very much. Thanks, Paul. And now